Childhood and growing up. This is for B.Ed first year, exclusively for Pondicherry University, explained by Dr. Shubha, Vasavi College of Education, Pondicherry. Unit 9, Personality and Social Cognition. Under this, we'll be learning meaning of personality, self-concept, self-acceptance, self-actualization, self-confidence, self-interest, self-disclosure, self-development, self-help, symbols of self, culture and the self, self-discrepancies, threats to self-esteem, and social cognition. Self-disclosure. What do you mean by self-disclosure? That is disclosing about yourself. Now, this is a process of communication by which one person reveals information about themselves to another. The information can be descriptive or evaluative and can include thoughts, feelings, aspirations, goals, failures, successes, fears and dreams, as well as one's likes, dislikes and favorites. That is, if I am doing a self-disclosure to somebody, then I reveal about myself. See, I'm Shubha, I'm like this, I like this one, I like to do like this, I don't like this. So, disclosure is something which you are telling about yourself. Self-disclosure. The process of self-disclosure, when people share personal information, that is, I have a family, my husband is working here, I have 2 children, likewise, about themselves to another, aids the development and sustainment of social relationships. That is, people who have higher levels of self-disclosure share more intimate details, or in general, more liked by the people they interact with. However, this process is not a one-way street. One of the most important factors in the process of self-disclosure is reciprocation. That is, if you are telling about yourself to the other person, then you expect that the other person should also reveal something about him to you. That is, so when you interact, you have to tell about yourself. That is, they should know who you are, from where you are coming. See, in India, it's so common that whenever we meet 2 people, if at all you go in train, then within 1 hour you start the conversation. From where you are coming, how many children you have, where you are working, where is your wife working, where is your husband working. So we ask so many things and we get to know about each other. And we reciprocate. If they tell, we also tell. But there are some people who won't even open their mouth. They don't want to reveal about themselves. So self-disclosure is revealing one's full self, even the personal details. But is it safe these days? No, I'm sorry. It's not very safe to disclose one's personal details to other person, how much ever intimate you are. So speaking from personal experience, share transforming power stories, personal stories, break the ice. What do you mean by break the ice? Suppose we are going in a train. So just close, we have a person sitting, just staring at you or looking at you. So there is an eyes. Eyes means what? Like there is a feeling, which is a grave feeling, that you also don't talk, he also doesn't talk. So you need to break the ice. Break the ice means get to know each other. Then you start, hello, I'm such and such a person. Who you are? May I know your name? So you are breaking the ice, breaking the silence. Opportunity to learn and heal ourselves. That's it. So this is a process where you reveal information about yourself to another person. You can reveal your thoughts, feelings, aspirations, failures, success, dream, and everything. The information can be descriptive or evaluative also. Means you can describe or you can evaluate yourself and tell them. According to social penetration theory, there are 2 dimensions of self-disclosure. So social penetration theory comes in sociology, but anyway, we will learn about that. So this is the two-dimension social penetration theory. Two-dimension means like X and Y, 2 by 2 matrix. Known to others, unknown to self. Not known to self, not known to others. So here vertically you have known to others and not known to others. Known to self and not known to self means what? Some rahasya you have, some secrets which are only known to self and known to others. So if everybody knows about you and you also know, it is an open self. You are an open book. Now known to others, everybody knows about you, but you don't realize that about yourself. That's the blind spot, blind self. You don't know that aspect of yours, but others know. Now the next one is not known to others. Nobody knows about that particular aspect, but it is known to you. It's a hidden self. You're hiding something which you only know, but which is not known to others and not known to you also. There is some unknown self. So this is self social penetration theory about self-disclosure. Now what are the levels of self-disclosure? So first one is, this is socializing actually. Now you are coming to the class the very first day. You don't know anybody, so you just coming to the college the very first day. You say hi to everybody and you are sitting in the class. Now there is a click conversation. Means when you are socializing, you will have one friend immediately. Maybe the next person who is sitting, or maybe by look only you understand, okay, the vibing will be good with this person. So the click conversation. Next is reporting facts about others. So reporting facts about others. Has he come? No, he didn't come. He is living there. Likewise. The next one is expressing ideas and judgments. That is, what do you say about the present government, present Indian government? Likewise. So you share the judgments and the experiences. The next one is the gut level. You go a step forward and you discuss about politics, everything. Next one is peak communication. That is, you are free and you communicate everything, whatever comes to your mind. Now let's see about self-development. Now this can be defined in general terms as gaining information needed in a person's working life, acquiring new information and skills, open to the change, learning for the sake of learning, and maintaining all this knowledge throughout one's life. Self-development. That is, you need to develop yourself. First you need to know what are your talents, what you can do. Let's suppose I can sing very well. Then I need to find avenues and ways to develop my ability of singing. Let's suppose if I'm a dancer, then I need to go according to that. That is, I need to look for a guru who can teach me dance and I can excel in that art. So self-development is taking steps to better yourself by learning new skills. Also new skills. Let's suppose you like to draw, but till now you haven't practiced. So you need to look for a person who can teach you. So learn new skills and overcoming bad habits. It's a glorious quest. It's a quest. The desire to find your own freedom, to connect with your sense of worth and integrity and happiness, to enjoy abundance. Means, see, we need to blossom. Whatever capacity we have, whatever ability or capability we have, it should come out. And you need to help others also in the process. What makes you who you are? How are you different from other people? How are you the same as other people? Do you like to sing? Do you like to play sports? Do math? Or you're good at relationships? Or better at being on your own? Composed? Alone? How do you interact with the world around you? Psychologist George Herbert Mead was interested in these questions. He studied self-development, or the way that people's perceptions of themselves change. Specifically, Mead wanted to know how children and infants interacted with the world around them and what stages they went through to develop a unique autonomous self. Here he says, like an infant, if nobody is looking at them, then they won't do anything, they will sit quiet. But if you're watching them, then they will see, okay, she is watching me, then they will do something. See how I am doing, see how I am doing. So they want to develop themselves only if the other person is looking at them. So you can watch these will be really interesting. So to have personal or self-development, we need to have self-awareness, that is, aware of your strengths and weaknesses, your talents, your likes, your dislikes, and self-knowledge. You should know about you. That is, I'm a lazy person, I can work hard, I like to do this, I like to keep up commitment. Self-knowledge, knowing about yourself. And identity, I am such and such a person. And talents, potential, I have this potential, I can do non-stop working, I can sing. Human capital, quality of life, my dreams, my aspirations. So all this you should know, and this will definitely help you to develop yourself. Next comes self-help. So what is the self-help? So initially we saw that we need to love ourselves and accept ourselves with our positive and negative. So once we accept, see, if we don't like ourselves, then who will like ourselves? Only if we start loving ourselves and liking ourselves, we can have some self-esteem, high self-esteem. Otherwise, if at all we think, no, I am good for nothing, then you can never have a confidence and you can never have a self-esteem. You will be like a worm. You will not blossom. So once you know about your efficiency, you need to help yourself. Self-help. This often appeared in the 1800s as a legal context, referring to the doctrine. Doctrine means principles. That a party in dispute has the right to use lawful means on their own initiative to remedy a wrong. That is, they can do a remedy. They can help themselves to fix something. An essay by Ralph Emerson. You know about Emerson, no? An English writer. So he has written an essay like Compensation. This was published suggesting every man in his lifetime needs to thank his faults and acquire habits of self-help. Our strength grows out of our weakness. So if at all, say, தோல்வியே வெற்றியின் முதல் படி. Only if we fail, we will understand where we have erred. And you will not see, somebody suggests that you cannot read only success stories. You have to read failure stories. So if you read stories of failure, only then you will understand, okay, this part I shouldn't do, this act I should not repeat, likewise. So we have to acquire habits of self-help. Unless we help ourselves, unless we try to strengthen our weaknesses, nobody can help us. Samuel Smiles published the first self-consciously personal development self-help book, and this was titled as Self-Help. Now the opening sentence, heaven helps those who help themselves. God helps them that help themselves. So these are the famous sentences which everybody uses now. Now why we are talking about this? Unless we nourish and nurture ourselves, nobody will do that. So we need to spend some time. See, these days everybody is running like a rat race, so nobody has time to do. Now we don't care ourselves so much. We don't take much time for our personal details, to improve our personality, and to improve our emotional quotient, to improve our intelligence quotient. We have no time. First we need to take time. So as teachers, we need to tell the students that they need to take some time. They need to understand about their strengths and weaknesses, and only then they can develop themselves so that their self-esteem will be good and high. Now, symbols of self. So what are the symbols of self? That is, I have done, I am a graduate, I am a doctorate, I am a philosopher, I am a doctor. So you attach a symbol to yourself. For Jung, that is called Jung, the self is an encompassing whole which acts as a container. So it's like a container, and the container can be a circle, square, or mandala, or symbols of self realized as the product of individuation, which is the process of integrating various aspects of one's personality. So what he says, self is like a circle. Self is like a container in which symbol of self is the focus. And what is the symbol of self? The various aspects of the self's personality. Okay. Now this is a picture which they have been using called Jung. So the self is like a circle. Now the symbol of self is there at the middle. That is, it is the sum total of all the triads, the behavior and your personality. That is symbol of the self. And according to Carl Jung, Jungian psychology, is a dynamic concept. What do you mean by dynamic concept? Which is not static. Means which is not a constant, which will be changing as time changes. So it's a dynamic concept which has undergone numerous modifications since it was first conceptualized. Historically, the self, according to Carl Jung, signifies the unification of consciousness and unconsciousness in a person, and representing the psyche as a whole. It is realized as a product of individuation, which in his view is a process of integrating various aspects of one's personality. So the same thing, so he says self is the total, conscious, unconscious and preconscious, everything together. But individuation means what? What is your individual traits and behavior? And your integrated personality is in the middle. As we have one center hypothesis, we have two center hypothesis also in psychology. The idea that there are two centers of the personality distinguished Jungian psychology at one time. The ego has been seen as the center of consciousness, whereas the self is defined as the center of the total personality, which includes conscious, the unconscious and the ego. The self is both the whole and the center, while the ego is a self-contained center of the circle contained within the whole, and the self can be understood as the greater circle. So my whole thing, myself, is the entire circle, but my ego is the center. That's what he says. Self-definitional symbols. These are the objects that individuals use to communicate their self-definitions to the society. Means I am Dr. somebody, so I am conveying that I am a doctor, I am a doctorate, or I am a doctor. Symbols can be both material and non-material. Like gang people in US, it's very common. So they will use a symbol to represent a gang. So it can be a non-material symbol also, including anything ranging from utterances, behaviors, and socially recognized markers. So it can be a material possessions and social status. And these days now we all call everybody sir. But when British people were there, sir is a really honor given to somebody. So that's the symbol, status of symbol. They are defined of any facet of the person that has the potential to signal to others. he is engineer, so he's an engineer, he's a civil engineer, he's a computer operator. That's a symbol of self. It is through these symbols that individuals build their self definition and communicate them to the society. So symbols are the building blocks of self definition. I'm the MD, I'm Mukesh Ambani. So you have symbols of self representing a big empire. Okay. Now culture and the self. Culture plays a very important part. The triads of individualistic culture. So culture gives you independence, autonomy, uniqueness, self-sufficiency. These are the triads of individualistic culture. Culture is what? Nothing but the way of life, the feelings, the thoughts, the triads, the behavior. And self-perception. Perception means what? How will you view, you perceive yourself. I observe myself. I perceive myself. That is self-perception. This influences how we think about the world, our social relationships, health, lifestyle choices, community engagement, our own and other people's well-being. How we see ourselves is shape our lives, and how we see ourselves will be based on the culture in which we are living. So from childhood we are in a culture, so we have been treated to think in a particular way, we have been treated to act in a particular way, we have been trained to reciprocate in a particular way. So the culture in which we are living play a very important role in self. Social scientists, they say that people in different parts of the world see themselves in different ways. It depends on the culture. So culture influences whether and how you value triads: humility, self-esteem, politeness and assertiveness. In some culture you need to you should not open your mouth. In some culture, like Gujaratis, they don't talk to their mother-in-law or father-in-law in a very open way. Okay, they don't show their face also. Like in ancient days, how women were treated. In some Gujarati family, they are still like that. So it depends on the culture. Culture also influences how you perceive hardship, perceive how you see, how you observe, and how you feel about relying on others. This plays a very important role in your self and self. Culture is one of the most important factors in influencing the character and the personality of human beings. It is through culture that people learn what the world expects of them and responds accordingly. Essentially, everything that an individual partakes means individual gets, is dependent on their culture. So culture affects people's personality and characters. So the interaction which you have with the outside world, with the others in the family, depends on the culture in which you are brought up in. The material studied in this essay all seem to agree on the fact that culture influences the self. Indeed, our thinking, personality, belief, perceptions and character are all shaped by the culture. As we belong to different countries, we live in different culture. So when we are in US, our culture is different. Like in summer, they wear only a very small short and a very tiny outfit, showing almost the bare body to the sun. When they look at us, they will ask us, "Oh God, how you are wearing everything like this? It's so suffocating to see you." So it depends. They belong to that culture. We belong to this culture. We cannot show our body to the sun. We will cover ourselves with a sari. So wherever you live, the culture, the way of life differs, and the way you perceive others differ. The way you perceive yourself also differ.